Ciao, hi, hey, hola, guys, amigos, namaste, konnichiwa, and all that good stuff. It's your boy M.K.S here, back in another video. I'm just going to check I'm live on Facebook as well, which I am. I'm on Facebook and YouTube. So once again, it's your boy M.K.S here, back in another video. I was really disappointed in myself because I spilled my tea earlier quite a lot with my clumsiness. I wonder if that is a dyspraxia trait, for those who know what dyspraxia is. Not knowing proper coordinates and overdoing things or whatever, I don't know, or it's a greedy thing, I don't know, pouring too much tea and I end up spilling most of it anyway. Some might say you can just make more tea afterward. Anyway, normally I was going to say in part 3, by the way, welcome to the fourth and final part, I hope I got the right title in, of this. I was going to say in part 3 in the intro about, and I didn't want to be too long, I'm going to try and say this as quickly as possible before I get into the pointers number 31 to 40. And this one, like I normally do, I'm going to try and talk about what I dream to achieve in the future. Ideally, I'm going to be idealistic, I think, but maybe I should be a bit more realistic. But I did want to do this in April because I was thinking, like, for March, I love to support. I know I love to support Townfall and Celtic and Irish empowerment because Ireland is benefiting their economy because St. Patrick's Day is in March, the same day as Italy's Unification Day. Excuse me, and that kind of thing. But also, I love to support Aboriginals and also Africa. So I thought, as in April, I wanted to support Asia, April, May, and June. So as it was like a crossover between my dreams to empower people from Africa and my dreams to empower people from Asia, I thought combining the two. Hence, ideally, I would have done this on the 1st of April or the last day of March. I can't remember, this 31 days or whatever, 30 or 31 or whatever. But yeah, it wasn't to be. I didn't manage to get the energy, or for whatever reason didn't manage to finish it. Normally I watch this show called Question Time, and also I watch, it used to be called This Week, but they've changed it to Politics Live, and I thought this time I'll give it a rest. But sometimes I do watch it and I wonder why. I think, oh, am I wasting my time by watching this? Because there's some interesting points and I might learn things and whatnot about politics. I probably could sit there with a notepad, write my political goals up and write things, in this case about Asia especially, and also Africa in this case as well, actually. And they're talking about AI tonight, but I decided to do this instead because I'm behind schedule and I wanted to finish off unfinished business as much as possible. But going through my videos, I'm thinking, like, I want to go through all these videos that I've done to, like, sort of finish parts 2 and 3 or 4 or whatever. Let's say if I haven't finished part 4 or even part 3 and 4 or even part 2, 3 and 4, I hope to finish those sorts of things. But I think the main thing is trying to get my message out there as coherently as I can in my own way, I guess. But yeah, I decided to give Question Time and Politics Live, which used to be This Week. They've changed the presenter and the format and the people on the show. But yeah, I still normally watch it. But it's got some interesting stuff. But I just think it's a distraction. I don't like to be distracted by anything. I just want to focus on, like, Asian empowerment, and in this case, Asian and African empowerment, to make up for lost time. So yeah, I was trying to go through all my videos and write in my diary all the ones I haven't done. So I was trying to think of, like, on Thursday the 21st, because it was the 21st, like 21 again. I was trying to write all the videos I haven't finished when I do them in parts 1 to 4, which ones I haven't done part 4, or in some cases part 3 and 4, or in some rare cases part 2, 3 and 4. So yeah, trying to go through that and trying not to. I was thinking, if I did do part 3 and I just can't find it, I'm repeating it. But I guess, as I say, the main thing is getting the message out there. So anyway, I'm going to move on. That intro went too long. I'm just trying to think. I hope I didn't forget anything. But if I did, I'll probably include it towards at the end of the video, or in a different video, because obviously this is the fourth and final part. I sometimes think, like, what if I made a part 5 if necessary? But I suppose it's hard enough to cover enough ideas for whatever. But it could be injury time, extra time, and that kind of thing. Extra time, especially, as I say, in football. But anyway, number 31. I dream, as I think about what I dream to happen in the future, and perhaps I should be more realistic. That's what I'm looking for. I'm quite idealistic, but I often think for Thursdays I like to try and be a bit serious and focus on my plans, even though I like to have fun and that kind of thing. But yeah, I think more am fun on Fridays and Sundays and that kind of thing. Sunday fun days, Friday fun days, and that kind of thing. But yeah, I like to have a bit of fun each day if I can, or at least an hour a day or something. But I suppose people say there's a time to be serious. But I'd love for Asian and African nations to work together, put their differences aside. Maybe Egypt could host something, some sort of organisation, a bit like the Asian Alliance I wish to create, which would promote Pan-Asianism, and like the African Union, which in my opinion should be African Unions, Pan-Africanism, and bringing Africa together and like supporting them and empowering them in tech. I'd love for Egypt to host events where like Africa and Asia connects together, whether that's in music, dancing, films, making films, filmography, building films together, making films together, writing films together, whatever, working together and publishing books, music, as I say, singing, songwriting, dancing, sports, and all sorts of different areas. As many events as they can host, and maybe have like special buildings where they bring African and Asian delegates, diplomats, politicians, entrepreneurs, musicians, movie producers, directors, actors, actresses, people looking for work, like actors and actresses looking for work, people who can cast them, and all sorts of things like that, and collaborating together. Number 32, as I say, I'd love for them to collaborate together and learn from each other, and learn about each other, and learn about each other's histories, and learn from each other for the future as well, and learn from history, each other's history and world history and things like that, and looking at what they can learn generally, and like Africans to connect with Asians through tech, so Asian nations could teach Africans and train them up in tech, and maybe sometimes even vice versa. But I don't want to look down on Africa. I want them to like sort of believe in themselves and believe in each other. But I'd love for Africa to lead in tech by 2030, or from 2030 even, by and from 2030 even. But yeah, I'd love for them to connect and also, as I say, culturally, traditionally, ideas-wise, entrepreneurship-wise, markets-wise, investing-wise, which I talked about in part 3 so long ago when I did part 1 and 2. I can't quite remember quite what I covered, or even that much of it at all, if any of it. They'll probably mention it time for themselves, if only. Yeah, hosting for sports tournaments, and I think in return, I often think like with Africa, they should say, I know I mentioned in the past, but they should ask people like if Russia, America, Britain, China, Brazil, and any other nations, Japan or whatever, want to invest in African nations, I think they should say, which one of you are going to train the most of our young people in tech? I often think of it like training 40 young Africans in tech. If so many different countries do that, they get lots of training, at least in return for trading their resources. So at least they'll get something long term back, rather than just backhanded deals that don't quite work out and just only benefit a few. But yeah, trying to tackle corruption, that's another thing, like learning how to tackle corruption and crime generally, and that kind of thing. Maybe improve the image of Africa and Asia, improve tourism, hopefully for Egypt and the rest of Africa and Asia. And again, like I say, what they can learn from each other. There's something else I'm sure I was going to say, but yeah, so also they could look at like which nations would invest the most. So they could say, like China could say, okay, we'll invest, we'll train actually not just 40, we'll train 100 Africans in tech, and then America might have to try and come back and see how they could outdo each other. So that could empower Africa in tech. And so at least if they're given their resources, they're getting something back in return, which is tangible and long term. I'm sure there's something else I want to say, but it's really annoying. I've forgotten it. Remembering my chain of thought, I wish I could learn how to do that. But moving on, exercises do that. But number 33, as I say, I love to promote libertarianism, and I know in part 4 I normally talk about, I do try and mix up if I can, but every now and then, but I normally talk about achieving what I talk about in the first 3 parts, if you like, for want of a better way of putting it. So yeah, promoting libertarianism across Africa and Asia, I'd love to do that personally. Might be a hard sell, but I'd love to see that being achieved somehow. Again, putting their differences aside and working together. But yeah, promoting libertarianism. I look at that across Africa, and I talk about promoting republicanism as well, republics, that kind of thing. But I did mention in part three that I imagine monarchies would not want to give up their power that easily. Um, but I'll drink to promoting libertarianism, as I say. Number 34, I hope that, so yeah, I haven't really thought of a name of it, but there could be, I don't know, the Africa to Asia bridge building organization or something like that, which, or something like that. What name would you give? I'd love to know. That could connect Africa and Asia together, and the buildings would be hosted in Egypt, and they would talk about, like, say if there's disputes between different nations, whether that's Asian nations and each other, or African nations and each other, or African nations with Asian nations, or whatever it might be, that tries to put differences aside and promotes dialogue, diplomacy, and that kind of thing, inviting delegates, diplomats, and whatnot, politicians and entrepreneurs, as I say, musicians, and all sorts of different people to build bridges together. As I say, I'd love for them to connect in music, movies, books, poetry, art writing, engineering, mechanics, and all sorts of different projects. Like teach each other about STEM, peace projects, and that kind of thing, peace building projects, and that kind of thing. Working together with FIFA to promote peace with football, maybe, and that kind of thing. Get more Africans and Asians in football, maybe, including like playing and coaching and managing, and learning about football, becoming directors of football, learning about diets, dietitians, and that, becoming dietitians, maybe even, and that kind of thing. Number 35, I hope that African and Asian nations can share goals together and help each other to reach their goals. After mentioning like India's ambitions to be a 5 or even $10 trillion economy, maybe even helping to exceed those expectations. Sorry. So if India wants to be a $5 trillion economy by 2028 or whatever, maybe it could be fast tracked to exceed their own expectations, their own dreams, and do so by 2026 or 2027 or whatever. And hopefully become a $10 trillion economy by 2030. And also, I'd say China, Japan, Korea, Egypt itself, Nigeria, South Africa, and all those different nations helping each other do as well as possible. When it comes to immigration, there's a lot of problems in South Africa, like xenophobia and like anti-immigrant sentiment, which seems to be happening all over the world. But occurring all over the world, I don't know where you want to put it. But I wonder if they can come together and say that let's support migration as long as it's done legally. That's one thing. I only want to support legal migration. So even though I'm an anti-imperialist, I don't want to support any illegal immigration. I just want to support legal immigration, whether that's between Africa, Asia, or any other parts of the world. So even Africans travelling internally within the continent, or Asians travelling to Africa, or Africans travelling to Asia, or Asians travelling to other parts of Asia, or whatever it might be, and that kind of thing. So, but moving on, number 36, I hope they'll talk about all the things they achieve and working together, working as hard as necessary, and I suppose saluting the hard work ethic of both continents and peoples, and maybe even black and Asian people working together worldwide. And from a selfish point of view, now I mentioned, I know it can be quite racist in football, but I would love for Italy to be invited to Egypt and to play football with Africans and Asians and practice together and learn from each other and hopefully benefit Italian football and also Asian and African football, and help, as I say, more Asians to get into playing, coaching, managing, being owners of football clubs, directors of football, whatever role that involves, dietitians and whatnot, so they can help each other with diets and fitness and things like that as well. And hopefully, through football, maybe I'm being naive as ever, but Italians could be less racist and improve their relations with Africans and Asians, and maybe more African and Asian people could play football for Italy, as long as they pick the best players, which hopefully will benefit Italian football, not Portugal top cap rather. But moving on, number 30, I don't know where this cap came from, it was just in my room, so I just wore it. Just came out of the blue. But anyway, number 37, again, I'd love for Celtic to be invited to Egypt, as well as Italian clubs. I love for Celtic as a club to be invited to Egypt, and maybe Egypt could host, like in terms of Italian football, they could host Serie A matches, or at least Coppa Italia and Italian Super Cup matches, maybe, or at least friendlies with younger Italian players, like from schools and things like that, youth teams and that kind of junior teams and whatnot. And Italy could invite African and Asian teams to Italy, but I'd hope for most of those events to be hosted in Egypt. Ideally, personally, I'd love them to be hosted across Egypt more, in and around Egypt. And also, I'd say I love for Celtic to go there, and Celtic could promote itself for Africans and Asians to invest into, sponsor, support, follow, have academies with, sports clubs of, and basically form those sorts of partnerships together. And also sports generally, again, I'd love for Africans and Asians to connect through sports and music, sports, and all sorts of different things, STEM, educating each other, learn from each other, that kind of thing. Number 39, I talked about like an Asian and African sovereign wealth fund. It'd be amazing to see how big that could be. Probably worth about 7 or 8 trillion, maybe. And also, as people often talk about China and India being potentially like a billion or even more customers, or approximately a billion customers or whatever. If you add Africa into that, that's another billion on top of that. A billion. There's a trillion then. Getting a bit ahead of myself, but trillion people. Anyway, that's a scary number, scary big number. But yeah, that's a good amount of customers. So it's also a very. I try not to get too excited and have too many expectations of things, but it'd be quite an exciting number to think about. That many potential customers and how it could market itself so that it can be in position to benefit from such. And number 40, confession time. Normally I say in point number 30, often say in point number 30 and number 40. I want to say in point number 3, so like freedom, and point number 13 more the fearful version. But a confession, I watched some pornos, one of the movies where like sometimes I watch them where white guys get screwed, black and Asian chicks, sometimes both, like combinations as well. And sometimes I watch it the other way around, and I thought, what if Egypt hosted some of those, if I'm honest? But yeah, another one of those I probably shouldn't say. But yeah, white guys getting screwed, black or Asian chicks, and then vice versa, like together, so combinations. And on that bombshell, I'm out. And peace.